Welcome back. Part 2, Chapter 4. The next steps or things that your book kind of talks about is problem-focused coping. And again, I touched on this just a few minutes ago. This is the systematic approach to problem solving. So rather than being overwhelmed by it, wow, this is a problem. What are the steps I'm going to take in order to solve it? So the first thing is to clarify the problem. This is really important because sometimes we take on everything. So the source of the problem is the proverbial leak. So yes, the water is leaking. Yes, it's ruining the couch. Yes, it's all those other things are happening. It's still coming in, all that. But we have to find the source. We have to find the source because if we just keep working on the other stuff, we don't find the source and it continues to leak. So going back and finding that source of the problem. What is the thing that I have to start with to solve it, to stop, then I can address the other things. Generate alternative courses of action. So what I'm doing doesn't work because that's where the problem is. So what else can I do? If there's a car accident in my way, I'm going to take an alternative route. So it may take me longer. It may be, those kind of things. It may be frustrating. It may be a road I'm unfamiliar with. But what is the other thing that I can do? In making sure that we evaluate all the alternatives and pick the one that is the best plan for us. So if there was an accident in my way, the one that got me towards my destination would be the right plan rather than just getting away from it in a direction that was not the direction I wanted to go, because that would take me longer to get to my destination. And then taking an action plan towards that and understanding that just because it's plan B doesn't mean plan B will always work either. So you have to be flexible, you have to be understanding, you have to know things take longer or do more. It's just the way it is. And plan for that when possible. Yesterday I took my car and it had a repair. It ended up being a 7-hour repair. So that was not how I intended to spend my day. Fortunately, I had my computer with me and I was able to do work while I was there waiting. So plan B, being flexible where it wasn't convenient, didn't work my best. I had to do different work than I intended to do, but I still got things done. So I was able to rearrange things and do it rather than feeling defeated or getting upset or playing games or any of those other alternatives which wouldn't have got me closer to where I needed to be. So there's some thoughts there. Social supports are really, really important as well. Some cultures are more prone to having them. It's innate within the culture. And you'll hear those family-oriented cultures or even these collective cultures where you really rarely see the individual that stands out. It's a group process and a very supportive process in that. They share distress and they help each other. So not only are they there for good times, they're there for bad times, and you would be for others too. That is not always found in the individualistic cultures, but it may be found in different families or in different social support networks. So within your friend components, if you are a friend that always takes and doesn't give, then that doesn't work out well. But finding the network of people that I can help you and you can help me. And this is really, really important. Especially as people come back to school. That's one of the things I hear. People are like, I'm overwhelmed. I have no one to take care of the kids. I have no one to help with this. I have no one to help with that. And it is hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm saying, are we using our supports the best that we can? Have we talked to our friends and our family and told them what we're doing and how we could use some help? And then helped them back too. So I'm going to make something up, but maybe somebody says, I'll take your kids on Saturdays with my kids and we go over here and you'll have Saturdays to do your homework, but could you help me out on Tuesday evenings because I have something else I need to be at and I need somebody to pick my kids up from school. And so there's a win-win there, but we don't always think about it. Instead, we take the whole world on our shoulders and say, how am I going to do everything that needs to be done? I've seen food chains where people, cook 3 meals and then make enough for other people and everybody makes 3 meals and then they share their meals and they've got a week's worth of planning done. Again, I'm not saying that's right for everyone. I'm saying that there are solutions out there if we're willing to look for them. So you want to look at your own individual life and say, are there any solutions that I can find within my life or within my networks? And sometimes you're going to find friends and family who didn't think about it either, and it could be very helpful and win-win for them as well. Time management is really critical. There is so many time management tools out there, and probably one of the biggest factors I see in students struggling and in people struggling is time management. They're not putting things in order, they're not prioritizing things, and they're getting distracted and going other places and then being overwhelmed by what happens. So that last minute kind of thing isn't helpful, and it adds to the stress. So how can I manage my time more effectively? Again, the car dealership being an example. I knew I still had to get those things within a time frame, and I could have just sat there and played games, but that wouldn't have helped me. So that's what we want to focus on for many people. And there's, again, a lot of tools that can help you. We move into emotion-focused coping. One of the keys here, in fact, I just read an article on it this morning, is the importance of developing and enhancing our emotional intelligence. Again, that's focused on in a different class. Hopefully you're familiar with it already, but emotional intelligence is a combination of our interpersonal skills and our intrapersonal skills. So it means it's a combination of our ability to cope and work with others and have good social skills with others, as well as our ability to identify what's going on for ourselves and keep ourselves in check. That helps us a great deal in emotional focused coping. How do I deal with this stressor in a way that's healthy and doesn't destroy me? Expressing our emotions, whether that's talking to a friend, if you have a friend or a source of somebody that you can share things with. Sometimes it's counseling, sometimes it's just a friend, sometimes it's journaling or writing things down for yourself just to kind of vent and get it out, but finding a way not to hold all those negative emotions inside. Being able to manage our hostile feelings, realize that they're not helpful and they're not going to bring us to where we want to go. And focus on forgiving other people, even when they've wronged us. Vengeance is a poison, and if we carry it around in us, it will poison us, and it will poison our other things that we're doing to do positive in our life. So something bad happened, and that's unfortunate. It really is, and no one's saying it isn't, but it's going to continue to poison you unless you take the poison out. And so why would we leave poison in there? It doesn't make sense. So we have to find a way to forgive and move on. We need to learn to relax and meditate. Meditation in itself, we know studies show that it reduces blood pressure, it improves our mood, it improves our self-control, it improves our happiness, it improves our physical health, and it improves our well-being. So it sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm not saying it's easy. Again, there's a lot of guides, and some people will say, that you find your own path, and that's okay. Some people want to take a nature walk. Some people want to pray in the morning. Some people take a warm bath. Some people can truly just sit and really kind of zone into it. And there's a lot of guides, guided imageries and things like that can help you. Whatever we do, pausing, breathing, focusing can help us a great deal. For myself personally, I like yoga. I'd like to have an active motion in things. That is not for everyone, nor am I suggesting it should be for everyone. It's just something to think about. What is the thing for you that helps you to do that? Because there's a lot of pros to it, a lot of pros. And it doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours a day. I mean, literally 10 minutes can make a world of difference in your health and your focus. And if you can't meditate, if the word just feels too scary, just try deep relaxing. Just deep relaxing and getting rid of all the crazy thoughts in our head. Finding a source for our wasted time is really important as well in time management. What's the time suck? I find that charting and journaling can be really, really, really helpful in these things because we can feel like there is absolutely not one more minute. There couldn't possibly be. And then we find it. So we want to look at where am I getting stuck? Is it traffic? And is there a way to redirect that? Is it waiting times? Is there a way to redirect that? Is there a tool I can use in those things? Where are the time sucks? Sadly, a lot of times they're Facebook, games, things that we could probably direct if we wanted to. We have to be willing to say no, especially at different times. I love to be participating in everything, and there are times and periods where I simply can't. I have other things that get in my way. Coming as students, it might be time to say, no, I cannot do that right now, but next time, definitely keep me in mind. I want to help out next time, but I can't do that. Or maybe I normally go to school and I volunteer for 3 hours a day, but I can't do that, but I can bring brownies. So what can I do practically? And it doesn't mean you'll never volunteer again. It just means that you're prioritizing for that time at that moment. Being able to delegate responsibilities. This is very difficult for people who feel like they have to do everything. Can your children do laundry? Might not be perfect, but can they do it and can they help out? It wouldn't be so bad for them to learn some skills. Can they take out the garbage? Can they cook one day a week? Maybe it's okay to buy pizza on Fridays instead of cooking every single day of the week. Whatever that skill is, finding a time to step back and not be perfect, and then honestly, that may make you more perfect, because kids love to have pizza on Friday instead of so that's okay. And I'm not suggesting we eat pizza every day, because kids need healthy diets. But I'm suggesting that you give yourself a break and see if you can't find a little bit of time and a little bit of release in that. Being able to throw things away that you don't need, quit carrying around stressors that we no longer need on our backs. It's just too heavy and there's no need for it. And again, going back, you need to be able to accept that you can be less than perfect, and then being less. And honestly, perfect's boring. It really is. You know exactly how everything lines up. Perfect's boring. You don't want to be perfect. You just want to be your very best and surprise people and surprise yourself. Procrastination, this is a kind of a fun one for me. I regularly hear students who say, I know I procrastinate, but I do my very, very best that way. If I have the pressure on, I don't work really hard unless the pressure is on. Nobody works better under that kind of pressure. It just doesn't. And if you did better with that paper last minute, how good do you think you could have done if you had been able to put yourself in a position to do it earlier so that you could have finished it and reviewed it and turned it in a good way? So while I hear the stories about procrastination, and the student might pass and may get by, and they may even get an A, it is not the way to go. It just isn't. And so procrastination leads to a low self-efficacy or belief in ourselves to get things done, a low conscientiousness, a lack of self-control, poor organization, lower achievement, lower motivation, and higher distractibility. It just does. It is not the best plan. You might have gotten by, you might have gotten lucky, but that is not the way. And even if you can get by in a class because you had a knowledge base that got you through it, there are bigger obstacles to face in your life, and if you deal with them in a procrastinating way, they can and will overwhelm you in the future. So it's a good plan to get rid of procrastination and finding other ways. So what is better for you is to set up time frames for yourself, earlier time frames, so you have, because invariably, then somebody gets sick or an emergency happened and they want me to be sympathetic as an instructor because this bad thing happened. And I realistically have to say, you had 7 days to do that. You should not have started it on Sunday night. With that said, I will tell you, out of 32 students, I will probably get 25 assignments on Sunday night. And I'd like to believe that's just their last minute review. And realistically, I know it's not. So I really encourage you to think about that. Set good time frames, be effective with your time, and give yourself rewards. So instead of working on your assignment at 12:59, which I get papers at, maybe you could be watching a movie at 12:59 if you're insisting on staying up that late. You just don't work best under that kind of pressure. It just doesn't work that way. How do we increase our time management? Again, journaling or monitoring our use of time. Where are the time sucks? What's taking that from us? Clarify our goals. What are the most important? Sometimes we spend a lot of time on things that don't really matter to us. So why are we spending that much time on it if we could cut that loose, or at least cut it loose for a while? Planning our activities and using a schedule, how we're going to set it in, as opposed to just always by the seat of our pants. And I'm not saying surprises and things like that aren't good, but if we don't plan out our time, we get overwhelmed. Protecting our prime time, or our most productive time, and using that for productive things. And increasing our efficiency. So if I happen to live in a rural region, so I have to drive 45 minutes into an area. So I need to make my list and go to 2 or 3 stores when I drive into that area. Driving into town 3 times makes less sense than making a list and going 1 time and giving myself a little bit more time to do it. And the list helps me from forgetting things. So you want to be practical. Make sure that you do your best to handle situations once. That's like the example I just gave you in traveling. To tackle one task at a time. Some people are really good at multitasking, but generally speaking, people tend to be more accident prone with that. Group similar tasks together when possible, so we're not always jumping around and wasting time and energy. And make use of our downtime. So when we have that time that's kind of innately there, what can I use during that time to get me ahead on my schedule? Great ideas. Hopefully this chapter was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you back for Chapter 5.